So here you see me using my paper clay, which is a molding clay, and my Finnabair molds, using the stars and moons, and then the Elisian Clockworks. Two molds that I have fell in love with. Like, I'm just like loving. The instructions on how to use the molds and the clay are on the back. And so here I'm using some baking powder to prime inside of the molds. Just using a brush to put a little into each image, to help with the hopefully to keep the clay from sticking to the molds when I get ready to remove them, the elements from the molds. And so here I'm just using again my brush. It's just a firm little bristle brush I got from the dollar store, the Dollar Tree, and just using that to make sure that I have enough down on the mold. And this is the first time that I'm using this particular element, which is the powder. I'm trying to see if it'll work. Other YouTubers have recommended some sort of like cornstarch or whatever, but I didn't have any on hand, so I figured I would try whatever I had in my pantry here. And so that was what I had, the baking powder. And so it works. And so shaking off some of the excess powder, there you see, you can actually see the powder inside of the molds. And so just making sure that I have good coverage. And then again, here I'm using my creative paper clay, which is the modeling material that I like to use. I have another one that's called Dyes, and that's a nice clay as well. But for some reason, I have really enjoyed using the creative paper clay. So here I'm just making sure that I have enough clay in each of the elements, and just making sure that I'm shaping the clay and pressing it into each of the individual molds. And so I really wanted to use these molds to make elements, because the current By the Well for God devotional kit for March 2021 is entitled In the Night Season, and the theme is this galaxy cosmic background, and I really want to use these stars and moons and some of the clocks, whatever, in a few of my devotional pages once I start creating them. And so I want to have these elements already on hand and dry, and ready for me to use whatever medium I'm going to use to decorate them. So whether it be acrylic paint, whether it be metallic flakes, whether it be some sort of modeling paste, or I don't know, we'll see. I'm going to use later once I decide which, what the page layouts will be. And so here again, you see me just, making sure that I have enough clay in each of the elements that I want to create, making sure that none of the excess clay lingers in the other elements, because I don't want to have that as a part of the image once it's dry, once it comes out of the mold. And so here I'm just making sure that the clay goes into each corner of the molds, and yeah. I fell in love with these moons and the stars and the clocks. I don't know why, but when I saw them, I knew I had to have them. And I actually created a clock out of the mold last month and used it in one of my pages. And one of my dear sisters in the Lord, Lenora, reminded me. She said, "Oh, the clocks are going to be in the next month's kit. And I was like, yes, that's why I have it. And so I couldn't wait to use it. So that's the reason that I use it. But praise God, I am using these Finnabair molds in these in my Bible journaling. And so you will probably see more and more of the Finnabair Primo Marketing mold elements in my pages and in some of my mixed media projects or whatever. And so I actually love just being able to do something relaxing, like pressing in this clay. There was nothing to it, no thinking about it really, just making sure that the clay is filling the area completely. And just, you know, smoothing everything out. It's a little messy, but it's not too bad. The clay does not stick to your hands. It washes off easily. And yeah, it's just a matter of you taking time to, you know, make sure that all of the clay is pressed into each of the mold elements well. And again, a little soap and water will get the clay right off, comes right off. It does not stick at all to your hands. So you have some really good leeway in the drying time for this clay. You know, I'm pressing, I'm holding a little bit as I clean off the excess, holding it in my hand or whatever, trying to use a little bit more of it in some of the other elements. And yeah, from time to time, you'll see me pinching off a bit more of the clay out of the packaging. That way it's, you know, fresh and you know, well moistened or whatever. And yeah. I really, really enjoyed this process. And Primo Marketing has a bunch of different molds that you can purchase. If you enjoy, you know, something like this, that's a little different than the traditional, you know, Bible journaling for me as well. It is. You might want to check them out if you're interested. And yeah, so here I'm just going over to the clock mold, the Elisian clock mold, and clocks mold, and just, you know, pressing in and making sure I have enough to cover that entire mold. What? That's a large area too. Like these next two elements, that one that I'm pressing now, and then that one that's empty that I'm about to press in a moment. I mean, they're huge spaces, and so I needed a good amount of clay to make sure that I had enough to be able to press in and then smooth out. So that's the key. Press in, smooth out. Smoothing out with my finger. If you have a card or some sort of a scraper that has a flat edge, you can use that in order to scrape across the top. But just kind of using my hands and my fingers or whatever just kind of gave me just an exhilarating feeling. Just, you know, this is free, kind of like a free for all Saturday. Like, it's not going to be perfect. I don't need it to be. And so, yeah. And so here you see me pressing out some of the mold elements. And I'm starting out with the stars and moons mold, and there you see a corner of my moon didn't come out, and so I'm trying to adhere it and fix it, and I'm like, oh, okay, you know what, I can shape it. The one good thing about this modeling clay is that it doesn't get hard to where you can't manipulate it you know, thereafter once you remove it. And so here you see me just kind of removing a bit of the extra clay and just kind of shaping it a little bit or whatever. I again ended up kind of, the corner didn't come out at the top as the way that I wanted it to, but it's okay because I can still use it. Here you see me just taking off the excess or whatever. Again, I love that. Look how the details. What? Yes, shut the front door. Shut the front door. What? Yes. Okay. And so I continue. Let's continue getting these elements out of the mold. And so here is a prime example of what I was talking about previously about some of the excess clay being on the elements. You can pick it off. You can, mesh it in together. No one will ever know. You can actually, you have time to correct any, deficiencies that you may not want to dry in the element. Like I had a line through that moon, and I just kind of pressed it a little bit with my fingers, and it came out. And so, yeah. And so here I'm just removing whatever excess I can with my hands and still pressing out. And I thought I misplaced the little star. It's so tiny, but look, that one didn't come out so well. So here you see me pressing in. I'm like, okay, come on, little stars. That one came out really nice. And so some of the elements came out really, really nice. Others came out, so-so. But I mean, again, that one I can't use. And so let's do the clocks. Oh my God. Look at my clock. What? That came out really well. Look at the details. Yes. And so look. Oh gosh. Here we go. Here we go. What? Look. Oh, shut the front door. Look at the details. I love it. Look at the big clock. Shut the front door. Look at the detail on the clock. Look at the detail. Oh my Lord. I love it. I love it, God. Again, these elements are going to be used in my Bible journaling art projects. And that's why you hear me saying, I love it, God. Praise God. Because I'm going to use these in my Bible journal pages for my devotional kits. What? And so you can see that for some reason, that top of that clock gives me a fit. And so I'm going to use some, probably maybe some heavy body gel to glue that on once I'm ready. But for the most part, it came out really, really well. And I absolutely love all of my elements. So here you see me using my heat tool just to kind of add a little bit of expediency to my process here, because I want to put on a coat of gesso. I'm going to be using my black gesso and my white gesso to actually prime these elements so that when I am ready to use them, they'll be ready to go. And all I have to do, again, is use my whatever mediums I'm going to use on each respective piece. And so just using my heat tool to speed up the drying process. And again, here you see me using my white heavy gesso and my black heavy gesso, and I'm using my Finnabair paintbrush to just kind of use to adhere to the elements. Here I'm using the white gesso first, and since that little element again came off, I'm going to use it later. I'm going to glue it back on, so it's not going to be an issue. And so here you see me using the white gesso to paint all of the elements, and then I will switch and use my black gesso. And let me just say, if you enjoyed this video and you like this content, please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Leave a comment if you would. Give me a thumbs up. And yeah, feel free to preview other videos that I have on my YouTube channel, which are mainly devotional kits, how-tos, and process videos, unboxings, and yeah. I pray that this is a blessing to you all, and that you enjoy this particular processing. So again, here I'm using the white gesso and just using my paintbrush to paint it on, and making sure that it's all the elements are well covered. And for the elements that are on this right side on that sheet that I'm doing now, I'm using all white gesso on those elements. And I knew for sure that for the moons and the the moons with the faces, and then the moons that are half moons, I knew I wanted to use black gesso on those. So that's what you'll see on the left side of the page once I get to that point in a moment. And so with the white gesso, I can also, add darker colors as well. There's no real difference in using black gesso or the white gesso. You can use either one. For the black gesso, I like adding the black gesso because I can use some of my waxes, Art Alchemy waxes on those, and it just comes out really, really pretty. And also on the white gesso, but for some reason the black ones, when I use the black gesso, the colors are amazing. So I like both, and so you will see me using elements on both. So here again, I'm using the black gesso to cover each element, the moons, and yeah. You want to be sure that you're covering the sides, the tops, the rounded edges, the flat parts, because if you don't turn the elements while you're painting on the gesso, you will miss small little parts. It could be small, like dot portions, or it could be a larger portion that you didn't realize you had missed because you didn't turn the element as you were painting on the gesso. And again, you don't have to worry about the gesso, the black, white, or anything sticking to your hands or whatever. It washes off. Both wash off very, very easily with some soap and water. They'll wash off of your paintbrushes, your sponges, or whatever, the same way. A little soap and water. Here I'm using my heat tool to expedite the drying process. And again, I used the Finnabair Art Basics Heavy Gesso in black and in white. Making sure each element is dry. And I'm actually waiting for the gesso to dry, not so much the paper clay, because that's going to be a continuous process with the drying of the paper clay. But once the gesso is at a matte color, it has a matte finish on it, you know that the gesso is dry. So now it'll be just a matter of time before the paper clay actually dries, the modeling clay. So here I'm just placing all of my elements on one sheet so that we can get a preview of all of my elements that will be towards the end. And so here's the finished sheet of elements molded out of the Finnabair Premium Marketing molds. And I hope you enjoy them. And yeah.